Good day, learners. Our topic for today is entitled Appraise the Unity of Plot, Setting, and Characterization in a Material Viewed to Achieve the Writer's Purpose. And for our objectives, first, identify the setting, plot, and characterization of the material viewed. Second, determine how the unity of plot, setting, and characterization contribute to the effective development of a story. Third, create a plot using the provided setting and characterization. And lastly, show realization on how to cope with changes. So basically, this lesson focuses more on the elements of the story, since the objective of our lesson is to appraise how the plot, the setting, and characterization unite in order for you to easily achieve or understand or have a correct comprehension of what you have read, and also for you to achieve the writer's purpose in a certain literary text. First, we have the plot. In a narrative or creative writing, a plot is the sequence of events that make up a story, whether it's told, written, filmed, or sung. The plot is the story, and more specifically, how the story develops, unfolds, and moves in time. We have already have a glimpse of the plot during our first topic, right, about the textual aids, and plot belongs to the story map. And we have discussed that when we say plot, this is the sequence of the events in the story, how the story develops, how the characters, the setting expose in the story, and how the events or the happening in the story actually happened. Or this is mainly the story. So for you to have a better understanding of the five main elements of the plot, we have here the illustration. So as you can see, we have a mountain-like illustration here. At first part or in the beginning, we have the exposition, followed by the rising action in the middle part, then the climax also at the middle, and followed by the ending parts, which are the falling action and the resolution. And we will discuss each for you to have a better understanding of the parts or the elements of the plot. First, we have the exposition. At the beginning of the story, characters, setting, and the main conflict are typically introduced. Example, once there was a greedy crocodile who was living on the bank of the Pasig River. So we have mentioned that when we say exposition, this is actually the beginning of the story. So in here, we expose the characters, the setting, and also the main conflict. So in this example, we have the character. Our main character is the crocodile. And as for the setting, we have the bank of the Pasig River. And the main conflict is actually the description of the character itself, which is the character being a greedy creature. And next, we have the rising action. The main character is in crisis, and events leading up to facing the conflict begin to unfold. The story here becomes more complicated. So for our example, as the continuation of our exposition earlier, we have this rising action. One day, the crocodile thought of getting married, and he said aloud that he will give all that he has for a wife. So remember, in rising action, these are the events that may lead to the climax. Or in this part of the plot, in rising action, the conflict now is beginning to develop. So we will see for the next part what will happen. And then we have the climax. At the peak of the story, a major event occurs in which the main character faces a major enemy, fear, challenge, or other source of conflict. The most action, drama, change, and excitement occurs here. So the climax is also known as the most exciting part of the story. And as stated here, this is at the peak of the story. That's why earlier, when I have shown you the illustration of the plot, we can see, or you have seen, that the climax is at the peak of the mountain-like illustration. And for our example here, we have the peahen said that she will marry the crocodile because he is rich. So in here, another source of conflict arises. And to the succeeding part of the story, we will see what will happen after, or what will happen if the peahen will marry the crocodile. Would their marriage be a successful one, or there would be another conflict to arise after they got married? So we'll find it out to the next part of the plot. And then we have the falling action. The story begins to slow down and work towards its end, tying up loose ends. So in here, falling action is actually the event before the resolution or the final part of the story. It is also known as the denouement. In here, the ending or the possible ending is gradually tying up or gradually exposed. So for our example, the crocodile asked the peahen to sit on his mouth so that she might not spoil her beautiful feathers with mud. So we may guess actually in this part what will happen if the peahen actually sit on her husband or husband's mouth or the crocodile. And later on, we will find out what will happen. And finally, we have the resolution, a concluding paragraph that resolves any remaining issues and ends the story. So when we say resolution, this is the ending of the story. But take note that there will be stories that ended as an open-ended one, wherein the reader will just guess what might happen after the story. And for our example, we have the crocodile made a good dinner of his wife. So after asking if his wife or the peahen would want to sit on his mouth in order for her not to get her feather dirty or muddy, the crocodile actually ate his own wife. And going back to the exposition, we have mentioned there that the main conflict of the story is that the crocodile is a greedy. Therefore, he actually asked for a good dinner, but not for a good wife. So at the ending of the story, it really showed or proved that the character, which is the crocodile, is a greedy one. And that's how the story ends, and that's how also we plot a story. We have the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. And for the second elements of the story, we have the settings. Is the time and place, when and where of the story. It's a literary element of literature used in novels, short stories, plays, films, etc., and usually introduced during the exposition or at the beginning of the story along with the characters. The setting may also include the environment of the story, which can be made up of physical location, weather, cultural surroundings, climate, and social situation. So for the settings, just always remember that when we say setting, this is the time and place, or when did the story happen, or where did it took place. So for physical location, for example, the Quezon or our municipality is located in the central Luzon, okay? Or our school is located in the middle of rice fields since we are in the rural area. And for the weather or climate, so for the weather, it can be a hot, it can be a cold. For the climate, it can be sunny, windy, or rainy. And for the cultural surroundings, for example, here in Quezon, The general population of our municipality is, we are Tagalog. Okay, so that can be an example for cultural surroundings. And for the social situation, an example for this could be, um, most of the people in Quezon is in average type of living, since most of the people here has their own source of income, or there are lots of businesses here, but we cannot say that we are all rich or we are all poor in our municipality. So those things have something to do with the settings. And as of the time for the setting, there are various ways that the time and place indicate setting. Time can cover many areas such as the character's time of life. So when we say character's time of life, it can be during the character's childhood years, teenage years, or adulthood years. And the time of the day is, it can be in the morning, in the afternoon, or at the evening. And for the time of the year, it could be, for example, during the winter or summer. And for the time period, it can be happened at the past, during the present, or in the future. In addition to the place, it also covers a lot of areas such as certain building. For example, um, in our school, we have the admin building, the STE building, the SPA building. So that can be an example for place. For country, the Philippines. For city or municipality, since we are in a municipality, we can have an example, the Quezon, okay? And for the beach, okay, the name of the beach, is it in Boracay or any other example for the beach? In a mode of transport such as car, bus, boat. So how can we get here in the Quezon? Do we need to ride in a boat in order for us to get here? So definitely no. We can just ride in a car or in a bus or in a jeepney, right? And indoors or out, it's just about where the story happened. Is it out of a certain area or inside a certain building or inside a school? So remember that the setting of a story can change throughout the plot. The environment includes geographical locations such as beach or mountains, the climate and the weather, and the social or cultural aspects such as the school, the theater, meeting, club, etc. And for our example, in the story of the crocodile and the peahen, we have the place as in the bank of the Pasig River. And for the time, it's just stated that it happened one day. So just remember that how you choose to describe your setting will affect the way your reader feels about your piece or your story. Do you want the reader to feel fear or tension? So you will provide a creepy settings. Or do you want them to feel warm and happy? So in here, you will provide a setting that is having a good environment or a beautiful place. And to determine the mood you want to create before taking on the task of describing your setting. So take note of those things. And for the third elements of the story, we have character with characterization. Characterization in literature is the process authors use to develop characters and create images of the characters for the audience. So in here, after revealing the character, so inside the story, the characterization or the description or the characteristics of the character will gradually reveal. Okay, so we have approaches and methods in order for us to identify the characterization of the characters. And here are the two approaches to characterization. We have the direct and indirect. For direct characterization, the author tells us what he or she wants us to know about the character, or the writer directly give description or the characterization of the character. And for the second one, indirect characterization, the author shows us things about the character to help us have an understanding of the character's personality and effect on other characters. So in indirect characterization, the writer did not directly give us the characterization or the description of the character, but we can realize it or understand it throughout reading the story. It can be depend on the situation that the character is in or what is happening to that certain characters. And now we have the 5 methods of characterization. And for the first one, we have the physical description. The character's physical appearance is described. So for example, crocodile having rough skin with big eyes, and the peahen with beautiful feathers. So as you can see here, the writer just merely gave us the physical looks of each character. And another example for physical description, the characters might be described as tall, thin, fat, pretty, beautiful, etc. And we might be told the color of hair or something about the clothing of the character, and how the character dresses might reveal something about the character. Does the character wear old, dirty clothing, or stylish or expensive clothing? So those things have something to do with the physical description as how or what the character looks like physically. Second, we have the action, attitude, or behavior. What the character does tells us a lot about him or her, as well as how the character behaves and his or her attitude. So, for example, the crocodile, it says here from the story, he ate the peahen. And the peahen, she listened carefully and began to examine the crocodile's looks. So these are the action, the attitude, or the behavior that was mentioned from the story. So from this characterization, by just using the action, the attitude, and behavior of the character, we may judge or we may understand whether the character is a good or a bad. And we may also see if the character is helpful or just a selfish one. So when we say AAB, it stands for the action, the attitude, and the behavior of the characters. And third, we have inner thoughts. What the character thinks reveals things about the character. We discover things about their personalities and feelings, which sometimes helps us understand the character's action. So, for example, Crocodile, he thought of getting married. So that's the inner thought or the first thought that the crocodile have. He is really thinking about having a wife or getting married. But eventually, her wife ended to be as a good dinner for him, literally. And we have also the peahen. She thought that the big eyes of the crocodile were diamonds. That was actually the main reason why the peahen wants to get married to or with the crocodile, since the peahen thought that she will be a happy wife since his husband is having a diamond. And we may say here that the peahen is actually a gold digger. So when we say inner thoughts, this is how the story or what the character thinks. Fourth, we have the reactions. Effect on others or what the other characters say and feel about this character. We learn about the relationships among the characters. How does the character make the other characters feel? Do they feel scared, happy, or confused? This helps the character have a better understanding of all the characters. So as for our example, the peahen from the story reacted in this way. I should be the happiest wife in the world. since the peahen actually thought that having the crocodile as her wife is a bonus or a jackpot, since she thought that the crocodile is really good husband material. And lastly, we have the speech. What the character says provide a great deal of insight for the reader. The character might speak in a shy, quiet manner or in a nervous manner. The character might speak intelligently or in a rude manner. So for our example, the crocodile, he said aloud, "I will give all that I have." So in here, we may conclude that the crocodile is really sure that he can give everything that his wife would wish. Or we may also say that he is really sincere of looking for a good wife. And next is the peahen. She said to herself, "I will marry the crocodile." So from this speech, we may say that the peahen is really sincere of getting married to the crocodile without any bad intentions. Because since she's thinking that marrying the crocodile is jackpot, because she thinks that the crocodile is really a rich one and is really looking for a good wife, she actually decided that she will get married. She will get married with the crocodile. So in his speech, this is actually, or these are actually the words or the things that the character says, and it can provide us a good characterization of the characters. And that's how our lesson ends, that by identifying and determining the elements of the story, we may appraise the unity of it, the unity of the plot, the setting, and characterization of the story that we have read in order for us to achieve and determine the writer's purpose. So get ready for the activity that we will have tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you've learned a lot from our lesson today.